6th grade math with Mr. Anderson.
Alright guys, today for math, first thing you need is your math notebook to take notes, and then you will need a calculator as well. So math notebook and calculator. So pause the video and get those things out. Push play when you have it. So the title of our lesson today is the volume of a rectangular prism and cube. You find volume the same way for either one. So write that down at the top of your paper and pause it. Push play when you have it. Alright. So here's the formula. Volume equals area base times height. So write that down. Pause it. Push play when you have it. And here's the abbreviated version. V equals capital B, which means area base times the height. Okay. So you will see V equals capital B H on your MCA on your formula sheet. Although that's not the formula that I like to use. Okay? So we talked a little bit yesterday about volume is how many cubes can fit inside of something. Okay? You're finding out how many, in this case, if you look at this rectangular prism, is how many square meters can fit in there. It's not square, cubed meters. So how many meters that are a cube? So sometimes it helps if I draw in the backside here. Here's how they want you to do it for MCAs, and then I'll show you how I do it. Okay? So first it wants you to find the area of the base. That's that capital B. Well, the base would be the bottom, right? So that would be 5 and 3, because it goes 5 across and 3 back. So you're just finding the area of the base, which would be 5 times 3. And then it wants you to multiply the h, which is the height, and that's 2. Okay? You multiply those, that's 15 times 2 equals 30. Okay? Now our label is not squared, right? It is meters, and we have to use the cubed, because these are cubes. It's three-dimensional, that's why there's a 3. Okay? Length, width, and height. Now what gets confusing about this formula is I see a B and an H, but yet I'm multiplying 1, 2, 3 numbers, right? Which if you look at this formula, you think, gosh, I'm only have to multiply 2, which is not correct. Remember, you're finding the area of the base, which would be base times height or length times width. So here's how I like to write the formula. Volume equals the length, yes, that's a cursive L, times the width, times the height. Write that in your notes. And now you can see that you're actually multiplying 3 numbers. And the length times the width is actually the area of the base, right? Okay, its area is length times width or base times height. All right, so basically you have to multiply the length, the base, the length, the width, and how tall it is, or the height. Okay, that's how we find area. The label is always cubed because we're finding how many cubes can fit inside. All right. So this one. Find the volume of this rectangular prism. Go ahead. Push play when you have it. So the length is 7. The width is 4. So that's my area of the base, times the height, which is 6. Okay? We're using this one, length times width times height. Okay? So you multiply in any order. 7 times 4 is 28 times 6. Do that on the side here. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So 168, what's your label? Feet cubed. So 168 cubes that are foot by foot by foot would fit into this rectangular prism, this space. Okay? Ooh, look at this one. Now, can you see why I want a calculator now? It's because most of your IXL's problems, at least in the beginning, are decimals. Okay? So, again, write it down before you type it in your calculator. So, it would be the length is 4.3. That's how long it is. The width would be this side right here. How wide it is, and that's times 6. And the height is how tall it is. That's this line. How tall? That's 3.3. Okay. Type that into your calculator. See what you get. All right. Did you get 85.14 yards cubed? Don't forget the cube down there, okay? All right. So to find the volume of something, remember the formula, like the second one we wrote? So that would be length times width times height equals V for volume. Okay? Now you see on this one, we know the volume, and we're missing the height, aren't we? So we're going to have to do a crash course in algebra. So pay attention closely. And you're going to want to keep your calculators handy on this. Okay? But also, you want to write this down. So write this down with me. So the length. Usually I think of that as the longest side. So in this case, a 12. Write that below. Fill in the width. Okay? So that's 6 yards. And the height is usually the one how tall it is. So that would be h. You don't know that. And we have to put the equals in the V volume. It tells you right here it's 288 yards cubed. So 88. That's what I meant to write. So first we multiply what we know. 12 times 6. And 12 times 6 is 72. And you bring the rest down. Times h equals 288. So 72 times a number equals 288. So one thing you could do is you could guess and check. 72 times something until you get 288. Okay? But that's not always going to work today because sometimes you get a decimal, which you'll see coming up. How are we going to solve this? Well, what we can do is we can do the opposite of multiplication here. Okay, opposite multiplication is division, right? So here's what we can do. We can divide 72 by 72. Okay, like that. Now think about what 72 over 72 equals. That equals 1, right? Equals 1. And 1 times any number is that number. 1 times h will be h. So what I basically did is I canceled this out. Now I just have h equals. But if we do that to the left side of the equal sign, we have to do it to the right side of the equal sign. So if I divide the left side by 72, I divide the right side by 72. Okay? And then you can type in your calculator 288 divided by 72. Do that, please. What do you get? You should get 4. And your label would just be yards, right? Because it is 4 yards here, not cubed. And you can check to see if your answer is correct. Do 12 times 6 times 4, length times width times height. You type that into your calculator, and I just did that, and it is 288. So you know it's correct. Okay? So if you have two numbers you're multiplying, one's a letter, you're unknown, you can divide by that number on both sides. So let's try another one like that. Okay. I always like to write down my formula first. Length times width times height equals the volume. Okay. So let's start with the length. The length is 7.8 times the width. I'm going to change that to y just for fun. I don't like using x. Looks like a times sign. Okay. We don't know that, so it's times y times the height. The height is this one, how tall it is, 6.1, which equals the volume, this number, 237.9. Okay. So what are we going to do first? We're going to multiply what we know, 7.8 times 6.1. Type that in your calculator right now. 7.8 times 6.1. What do you get? 47.58. Bring down the y. So times the y. Bring down what it equals. 237.9. All right. So how do we get rid of this? Well, we divide by 47.58, the same number. That cancels out, right? So it equals 1. Do the same to this side. 47.58. Divide by that. Type in your calculator right now. 237.9 divided by 47.58. Typed it in, and you get y equals 5. 5 feet. Okay? You see how we divide on the left side? You do it to the left of the equal sign, you do it to the right. Okay? Let's do one more. Alright. I'm going to have you try it first, and push play when you think you got it. Alright, so you could have set it up a little bit differently. So the length times width times height equals equals volume. I wanted to put the answer there. The length. That would be this, the long part. So that would be r in this case. Times the width, that's 4. Times the height, that's 7. Equals 347 2/10 inches cubed. Let's do that first. 4 times 7 is 28. R, bring down the R. R times 28 equals 347 2/10. Now I don't know what to multiply by 28 to get 347.2. So I'm going to divide this side by 28. Cancels out. Now I just have R. Divide this side by 28. Type it in the old calculator here. I'm doing that right now. And I get 12.4, 12 4/10 inches is what R equals. Okay? Hopefully this crash course in algebra is making sense. I guess we have one more. Go ahead, figure it out, push play when you got it. So, length 14, width 7, height Q equals 1,078. Start with 14 times 7, that's 98, times Q equals, bring the rest down, right? 1,078. Divide by 98 on this side, cancels out. It equals 1. Divide by 98 on this side, 1,078, typing in, divided by 98. Q equals 11 meters. Okay? All right. Good luck on your IXL.